The opportunity is investing in agriculture.
The opportunity is women.
The opportunity is community.
Livestock Bank.
Cook stove.
Youth.
Distribution.
The opportunity is Africa. Brought to you by Africa Eats on Africa Business Radio.
Welcome, everybody. Today we're going to talk about the needs of actual entrepreneurs on the ground. And all these entrepreneurs are taken from the Africa Eats portfolio. My name is Looney, so I'm the moderator of this panel. I am a longtime entrepreneur. I've been doing this now for 30 years. And then the last 10 years, I've been focused on mission-driven for-profits all around the world in the form of a global business accelerator called Fledge. Fledge looks something like this. And then what we did in 2020 is that we took all of those companies that were run by Native Africans to join into a novel investment structure, a novel support structure called Africa Eats. And those companies are based in 10 countries. And they are a wide variety of scales of companies. So the kinds of companies that apply to an accelerator tend to be pretty small. And some of these companies came to the program back in 2014, 2015, 2016, so a long time ago. And collectively, these 30 companies, if you looked at their total aggregate revenues, back in 2016, collectively, these companies earned $1.6 million. And in 2021, they earned collectively $16.8 million. They've already grown tenfold. Some of them have grown 20-fold, 30-fold, 50-fold. So these companies have been growing, and they've been growing well. It's a like 60% compounded growth rate back to 2014. That's a nice, healthy growth rate. We like to see that scale of growth rate. That's fast enough that people can keep up. It's not super stressful. And especially it's not the type of growth that the venture capitalists are usually looking for where you burn a ton of capital. These are profitable companies that are growing every year, that are raising money in order to grow more each year. All right, and I'm going to turn to them now and have them explain at least 4 of them here. I don't have all 30 with me here. That would take too long. So Joseph, give us 2 minutes on what Agro Supply is and what it does.
Thank you so much, Looney. My name is Joseph Ogwal. I'm the founder and CEO of Agro Supply. We are an input distribution company. We supply small farmers agricultural inputs, cereals and vegetables. Instead of giving these smaller farmers these inputs on credit, we develop a layaway prepayment system that helps these smaller farmers prepay for agricultural inputs during off-season so that we can deliver them when rain comes back.
My name is Elve. I'm based in Kigali, Rwanda. So we are running 3 companies in meat processing and livestock farming, plus transportation of perishable goods. So we have started working in 2012 by a meat processing company. Then afterwards, in 2016, we added the Livestock Bank, which is a company supporting farmers to produce in quality and the quantity of animals, which we are looking at to the market. Then Pioneer Meat Processing, we do processing meat and export meat. And Pioneer Transport, which is turning it to be TRUK Rwanda, they do transportation of perishable goods. Thank you.
Golden Pot is a company that works with hundreds of smallholder farmer women in Tanzania. They're focused today on maize with a little bit of groundnuts on the side. And they then process the maize into maize flour, and they have plans to produce some other products as well. The general idea being that most people in Africa are farmers or spouses of farmers, and a lot of the women in Tanzania do the farming. But the way the society is structured, the rural women generally don't get paid for their work. The men take the product to market and get paid. So this is a way to break that model and have incomes to women as well as producing more food for Tanzania. I picked these 4 companies because they're at 4 different scales. So we found this company a few years back. They didn't get started until 2017, so this is one of the newer companies. And back in 2017, they were a tiny little company of $4,000 of revenue. And here we are. It's been 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. It's been 4 years, and the company has now grown to $250,000. And the expectation is that it's going to get to $500,000 this year due to us investing, but mostly because she found an unused factory and took it over. Hervé, tell us about your journey in terms of scaling up your 3 companies and some of the challenges you hit along the way.
Okay, first of all, when I started Pioneer Meat Processing, the first challenge I met was the human resource. I was in business management background, but I didn't have a knowledge in meat processing, and to have the skilled personnel in my country was a little bit harder. So as I continued to grow myself and even my network, that's where I met Fred, then, which become a very huge push up to me. Then that's when I started grabbing some opportunities which I didn't even had the capacity to grab. Then I started growing slowly. Then I started the Livestock Bank, because one of the challenges I had was to connect to the farmers directly. Now that gives us the opportunity to go to the market with competitive prices, even locally and even to the regional market, especially Central Africa. DRC, Gabon, Congo Brazzaville. Then as we continued, we have been able even to solve the other challenge we had, which was the transportation and the logistic of perishable goods. So stage by stage, we met different challenges. Now we are doubling the sales each year. It's like 2020, we had 300,000, 2021 up to 500,000 and above. So this year we are targeting to come up with $900,000. So, and to the transportation company, now it's 2 years old, but it's doing sales of about $500,000.
I just want to point out to the audience, I met Hervé in 2016. Tiny little company at the time, and he chose to do this in a fashion of multiple companies, but in total his multiple companies are earning what's that, 1.4 million dollars as of the end of last year, and will probably be 2 million at least this year, if not bigger. Joseph, let's hear about your story and your growth. You're growing a little faster than that, at least in the last year. What's been the challenges along the way?
Thank you, Looney. My story is that I am typically an agricultural guy. I started farming when I was very young with my parents, and then decided that I needed to go to school and study agriculture. I have a bachelor degree in agricultural science. I've worked with smaller farmers my whole life. In my work life, my major role was to give smaller farmers input and develop a repayment plan on their microloans. And Agro Supply started as a problem that I kept seeing. I used to give smaller farmers a lot of inputs on credit, but recovering the money was a problem. And also saw that there are so many seed companies, so many fertilizer companies across the world making one of the best drought-resistant variety of seeds, but these seeds are not reaching smaller farmers. So I was like, how can I get good seeds that are available? Because good agricultural practice, good agricultural production starts with the right seed. How can I design a good prepayment system that will help these smaller farmers invest their own money into agriculture without us giving them inputs on credit? This way, farmers don't have to be worried about taking input and paying an extra interest, as well as Agro Supply don't have to be worried about going after farmers because they have not paid the money that they're supposed to pay. And then in 2017, I started Agro Supply, renting a small house, sourcing inputs and taking it down there so smaller farmers can buy. The next step was like, if farmers have inputs, what can we provide them? That is the knowledge. They need knowledge on how to do plant spacing, how to manage crop, how to know which variety is good. And we hire someone who has that agricultural knowledge to sit in the store to replicate the same knowledge to farmers. And then the second problem that came in was like, if farmers are producing, how can we get them access to market? We started connecting these farmers to different off-takers. The whole model changed. So in 2017, we had 6 input stores in northern Uganda. When we were going to 2018, we launched the layaway payment system that would help these smaller farmers plan for their system for their season in advance. What the system does is,
I'm gonna hold you at that spot. So what you're describing at the moment is the problem of farmers, which is a big common problem across the continent. What I promised the audience was the challenges of the companies that are, in this case, serving the farmers. right? And in the other cases, buying from farmers. We met in 2019. We invited you into the accelerator in 2020. Tell the audience what that big problem was in 2020 to scale up.
So in 2020, our biggest problem was access to financing. We used to, because we open up another side of the business, which is also B2B side, where we sell input to organizations, large-scale farmers and cash and so on. So most of the time, access to working capital was a problem. And when Africa Eat came in and we went through Fledge and so on, we started getting access to working capital, and that is why we decided we raise our revenue really high, up to $1 million.
And this is the piece that we didn't know when we invited you back into Fledge and into Africa Eats. Your business model is that you pre-sell products to farmers. They pay you before you deliver them the product, which is like every retailer's dream, every business's dream. You're not waiting 30 days to be paid. You're being paid before you're even handing them the product. How can you have an operational capital issue if you're being paid ahead of time?
We are not a bank, so we are not supposed to be the layaway system. We're not supposed to use that money as a working capital for the company. So that means that whatever these farmers are paying for, we have the product. But sometimes the payments are so heavy that surpasses our capital needs. So we need to buy input in advance to be able to supply them. And then we can transfer that money directly into a bank account immediately if every farmer has already picked up their input because they have already paid.
So it's not that you didn't want to use the money, you were legally not allowed to use the money.
Yes.
And so my advice to you, I remember this in 2020, is, okay, where's the money? And the answer was, it's at Standard Chartered. And I said, why don't we just go to Standard Chartered and have them lend against the money? And they said,
that money doesn't belong to us yet. It still belongs to the farmers unless we deliver.
But they wouldn't even lend against it. The banks in Africa are so reluctant to lend that they wouldn't even lend when they had 100% of the collateral of the cash sitting in their own bank. East Africa Fruits, which looks like a gigantic company. Like when I show it in this fashion and when I show it in all the graphs, like it looks like it's succeeding and it's grand and it's doing great, and it is doing great. But what amuses me is that I met this entrepreneur when he was 24 years old in early 2014 when he had just finished year one at $100,000. Tell us what the challenges were to grow a tiny little company to be this grand multi-million-dollar a year company.
Thank you. Just briefly, at Fruits, we are aggregate of produce from farm to retailers, and we use extensive technology and logistics to deliver fresh produce to informal businesses and small businesses in Dar es Salaam, and we're planning to expand that market to other cities within Tanzania, like Dodoma and Zanzibar. We have gone past, as Tony has projected there, $5 million. And through the journey, we have had a number of challenges, which I mostly think that they helped us to build as a business. Some of those challenges, of course, how to navigate through the logistics business. And I think that would apply to most countries in sub-Saharan Africa, where we're getting produce from that takes thousands of kilometers away from where the customers are. And in most cases, there are no formal logistics companies that will offer us transport from the farm to retailers. And that really caused us to really reinvent the business model, where we have to do it with a lot of trucks. So logistics actually becomes part and parcel of our solution. And some other challenges, of course, the team really is one of the biggest challenge, where we getting the right people, the right team in place to be able to fulfill the dream and ambition of the company is really a challenge. We have a high turnover rate in terms of the middle management, where we hire, and at some point we don't get the right fit, the right mindset that will help us to propel the business going forward. I'll let it end there for now. Of course, there are a couple other challenges we can talk about.
And since we lost Golden Pot, I'm going to call on one other that's sitting in the audience here, Victor, because you have kind of a unique challenge in growing your business as well.
Thank you, Rooney, for giving me the opportunity to speak. I was not expecting it. So, my name is Victor Mhango. I'm the chairman and business founder for Ziweto Enterprises Limited. Our business is involved in distribution of veterinary products, animal nutrition products, to livestock farmers in Malawi. At the moment, we have a network of 15 Ziweto Agro shops distributed across Malawi. We're also setting up an animal nutrition product manufacturing facility. So we started working, of course, our first shop was opened in 2016. That's when we joined the Fledge Accelerator program. So far, we have been growing. From 2016, we just did about $30,000 then. But in 2021, we managed to reach $850,000 in sales. So our main issues, of course, in terms of key challenges that we faced as a business, of course, the first one is access to finance. Apart from Fledge, the other investor that we have been able to get on board was Hippos back in 2019. But our business is involved in importing a lot of products, and that means we have to pay our manufacturers on time, and that has been a struggle at times. In addition to that, for some of you who might know the situation in Malawi, availability of Forex is also a big challenge. So sometimes we may have funds in Malawi quite in our bank, but we're not able to pay our suppliers because there is no Forex available in the bank. So we have to wait in line until the bank says there's some euros or dollars available, and then they're paid to our manufacturers.
All right, thanks. We met that company again. I think you said $30,000, $35,000, and now it's about $800,000 6 years later. And I wanted to share that one with the audience here because I think Malawi is just at the leading edge of this issue that we're going to see across Africa, which is countries that run out of dollars. All the businesses here have something they need that's not manufactured in Africa, whether it's trucks or equipment, or in this case, the actual products that sit on the shelf. Unless the countries are able to pay those bills, then it becomes a big problem. And so we're seeing that first and foremost in Malawi. I think we're seeing the same thing in Ethiopia at the moment. And those are the first two on the continent. So going back to the rest of the panel here, Hervé mentioned a bit about hiring. So can I hear from the rest of you on the challenges of finding a good team to put together?
So from my experience, finding a good team is really a big challenge. I remember when we started, since we didn't really have a lot of money, we used to hire fresh graduates, those who have interest in working in a fast-growing company, which actually really worked very well for us. But with time, you need also people with a lot of experience. So we started going to talent recruitment companies. Right now, working with one in Uganda that source talents for us and employ them, then bring them to Agro Supply. But it's also not easy because sometimes the demands from these people are so high that we cannot meet as a growing company. And so hiring has always been a really big problem for Agro Supply as we grow. But yeah, we're also trying to source for talents within. And one of the things that I have seen working now is bringing consultants to help boost our team that are in-house here. We hire consultants on a short basis, like in finance, in marketing, to come and work together with our team that are available here, kind of get things up moving.
As Jose ended up, even as what we are doing, of course, we cannot afford to hire whoever we want on the market. But what we do is to spot like a 2 or 3 good people which can occupy some key positions. Then the other positions, we hire those people who have passion and who are eager to run, and who can stay with us some longer time. Then we train them with that team with experience. As we train them, we build that capacity with them so that as we can spend some longer time with them, then we can get benefit from, let me say, cheaper stuff, but with improved knowledge and skills, because they can up to date. Like the people we were hiring in 2020, we are targeting at least that we can spend 5 to 10 years with them, and up to first 2 years they are critical years, but the rest of the 8 years could be a very good benefits to us. So and it's very, very helpful.
So let's turn to the company that has all this revenue. and therefore must not have this problem, right, Elia?
Yes, exactly. So the challenge is still remains at large. We have deployed a number of techniques. For example, as my colleague mentioned, hiring a few senior people and pegging them with a few junior candidates who will learn from this person and be able to grow. But again, it is still a challenge for some of the positions. Sometimes we find that the onboarding system itself is a challenge. We can interview good people, but when they come into action, they turn out to be not the kind of people we have been looking for. We are still trying to look into revising the onboarding challenges where we can have a role play, but that will be limited to people who do not have job. If you have somebody who has been doing some work somewhere else, it's going to be very hard to do that role play. It is still, I would say, still remains a challenge. But at least we're trying some new things here and there to overcome that one.
And I'm going to finish on one note there. Contact information. So if you'd like to talk to any of these entrepreneurs, including Heiko, who had internet issues, you can reach him here. I saw some news today that was promising, which is that the common currency for the East Africa Confederation is slated to launch in 2024. So maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years, but it would be lovely. You know, we have now a intra-Africa free trade agreement that's starting to actually do some stuff. And the next issue that we see as investors and we see trying to help all these companies is just too many currencies. And so the more that the East Africa countries come together and start working more together and start trading more together and having a single currency there, and then hopefully the eco on the west side of the continent. There's 35 currencies currently in the continent of Africa, and that's not helping. So that's one policy change that I'm eager to see and seems to be headed in the right direction. And so with that, I'm going to call this one done, and thank you for coming.
The opportunity is Africa. Brought to you by Africa Eats on Africa Business Radio.